All right, friend of blessings. We are back with another video. Before I get into it, a couple quick announcements. If you are looking or interested in signing up for the classes that I do offer, because the most frequent email I get, what kind of classes do you do? How do I sign up? What kind of classes do you offer? Go to the official Patreon page of Primordial Chaos, which is located at patreon.com/Baniti, Baniti. That's patreon.com/Baniti, Baniti. Tier 3 is the tier you want to join. That gives you access to the 3 private classes I do every month on Patreon, in addition to the group ritual we do together at the end of the month. There is a multitude of ongoing series. I cover pretty much everything in the occult and the left-hand path, Egyptian vampiric magic, Luciferian self-mastery and magic class, Klipothic sorcery, Sith classes, shadow work classes, which we are very knee-deep in those classes, Kundalini meditation and awakening classes, esoterical occult Bible study class, etc. I mean, there's a bunch. We cover everything in there. If you're looking to really further your occult and left-hand path studies and you want to take it to the next level, that's what I would suggest. And that's the way you get into the classes that I do offer. Patreon.com/Baniti, Baniti. Also, if you're interested in a spiritual reading or a consultation, I offer various different readings: Klipothic demonic readings, shadow work readings, Egyptian oracle readings, deity readings to see which spirits walk with you, Santa Muerte readings. As I said, the shadow work readings are always good to do. Uncover the shadow, the hidden self, see what you got going on around you, point you in the right direction of what ritual work that you might really need to be focusing on the current moment. But anyway, for a full list of readings and how to book a spiritual reading or a consultation, shoot me an email at khnum19@gmail.com, and I will send a email to you with the information on how to sign up, how to book a reading or a consultation. You can speed up the process by sending the days and times you're available, and most importantly, the time zone you live in. Because as I said before, I deal with people all different time zones within the United States, outside of the United States as well, overseas, Africa, Europe, etc. Also, the 6th annual Journey of the Black Addict Conference is in full effect. You can register and sign up now. You can either sign up to attend in person, which is October 19th to the 22nd. We'll have a meet and greet on Thursday night, Friday and Saturday. We will have classes and workshops and presentations from 9 to 4 p.m. We come back both nights, both times in the evening on Friday and Saturday night to do group ritual work, followed by a group dinner and just some hanging out and kicking it, listening to music and all that fun stuff. All right, and then Sunday we wrap up the event from noon to 4 with a question and answer class that I'll be doing, and that wraps the event up. You could also attend virtually, and that gives you access to the classes on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. You can shoot me an email at khnum19@gmail.com. And also keep in mind, all this new content and some existing content is now uploaded to the official Primordial Chaos podcast, which can be found on Spotify and all major podcast platforms. The direct link to the podcast is in the description box of this video. My email is in the description box of this video. The direct link to the Patreon page to sign up for classes in the description box of this video. And the same thing if you need information on signing up for spiritual readings or consultations. All right, so the question here, are you really on the left-hand path and the occult? And I got to keep it real. There's a lot of bullshit out there. There's a lot of infused stuff. So when you're asking yourself this question, because I say this has to be addressed. Some people are taking various right-hand path philosophies, right-hand path methodologies, religions, dogmas, And they're mixing it in, calling it left-hand path, calling it the occult, and it's really not. But let's back up a little bit. As I said before, first and foremost, this path is a commitment. Okay? This is a way of life. We don't just do this and, we don't just play occultist or left-hand path practitioner when it's convenient. We don't play left-hand path practitioner occultist when we're, in a YouTube chat group or on social media platform, or take pictures and post stuff on social media platform. Things of that nature. We don't do any of that stuff. Okay? Sorry about that. We don't do any of that stuff and just play occultist or left-hand path practitioner. You live, eat, breathe shit, and sleep this 24/7. Okay? You literally live, eat, breathe shit, and sleep this 24/7. Okay? It's a way of life. It's a lifestyle. It's being consistent at your practice. I've talked about that many times before. How do you maintain consistency, with your magical practice, managing your time, establishing regular practices, according to your needs? Because consistency cannot be maintained if those regular practices aren't established. Okay? Now, some people tend to be a little afraid to make the full transition, whether they're conscious of it or aware of it. You're on this path when you have shed all those old ways or paradigms. This is why I'm saying, and I'm posing the question, are you really on the path of left-hand path, the occult, self-mastery, whatever you want to call it, whatever floats your boat? If you are still clinging on to a lot of those old paradigms, you're not on this path. If you still want to play Santeria and Ifa, and unfortunately this is an ongoing thing that just never stops. People still want to infuse some of the old things they did. They just don't want to completely let go. They want to still hold on to these things for a multitude of reasons, and a lot of them are insecurities and fears. A lot of it is programming that is just not being fully deprogrammed. It's a security blanket and a multitude of other things. Because when you really lock yourself in on this path and you start to really feel yourself withdraw from a lot of those old ways, the old ways of thinking, the different dogmas, paradigms, and all the things you embraced from them previous systems, one of two things usually happens. The person usually continues to separate and withdraw themselves from them systems of programming, and they continue to navigate and continue their journey on this path. Then there are the others who, what I like to call, fence straddle. They want to keep one foot kind of on the path. They want to keep the 1 foot in, the 1 foot out, still doing a lot of those things that makes them feel safe or comfortable. The problem with being on the fence as far as a commitment on this path, as I said before, is a dangerous thing, because it's going to create a lot of internal confusion in your mind. Okay? I mean, I hear people label things occult, left-hand path that's not even really occult or left-hand path in any shape, form, or fashion. If you're still talking about the Orishi from a traditional perspective and all this Alafia shit and Hotep and all this, what you are doing is, it's like, you got to take that jump or that leap, and you're standing on the edge and you're saying, I'm going to take the jump, I'm going to do it, I'm not going to do it right now, maybe I'll do it. And then you just keep stepping back doing the same old shit. As I've said before, I see people carry a lot of old ways and practices with them when they come on this path. Their approach to deity usually sometimes can be really fucked up. Okay? You have to understand, when you're on this path, you are the central core foundation, and everything evolves and exists around you. You must establish that concept. You must establish that mindset, because that's going to take you clear-cut away from any of those doctrines of servitude, any of those doctrines of mental slavery and programming. Yes, and some of those doctrines that we thought were paths of consciousness and awakening, they were to a degree, but they weren't paths of self-mastery, because it still involved servitude, worshiping something, serving something, doing whatever was requested of you from that deity. There's always the servitude mentality. At what point do you stop serving and worshiping shit and start recognizing the fact that you are a god or a goddess? And then again, when I'm saying that, I got to be clear on that every time I say that, because the question will arise, yes, god or goddess of what? See, get out of your mind. We're not talking the monotheistic mythological concept of God. You are the god and the goddess and the ruler over your spiritual sovereignty. You've now taken a path where you make conscious choices. You make conscious decisions that are beneficial for you and the journey that you're on. You're not interested in being conformist, doing what everybody else is doing, getting in with the, oh, everybody's into this, everybody's doing this, so I'm going to be this, or everybody's part of this conscious group / movement, so I'm going to be that. No, we don't care about any of that stuff no more, right? So you have step one of many steps is, are you shedding all the old paradigms? Have you really released yourself from whatever spiritual system you came through in the past? Have you done that? That's the question. That's the focus. Are you moving forward as opposed to... Now, let me give you an example. If you're doing work... I'm sorry, I'll stop in a second. If you're doing work, as I said in the previous video, a couple videos back, or video or two back, engaging the results and see the growth, that measuring rod that I mentioned in some previous videos, that's something that's a productive way to also gauge if you are shedding old ways, shedding old paradigms, okay? But if you see yourself, for an example, especially if you're, let's say, a newcomer, or I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be a newcomer. Let's just say you are doing a time frame gauge of how you calculate time. Let's just say you're gauging 6 months, a year. And you go back and you look and you say, man, I'm still stuck. I'm in a rut. That will also be a telltale answer that reevaluate what kind of work you're doing. Reevaluate some of your habits and your practices. See, because people will always attribute, for whatever reason right out the gate when shit ain't going right, that it's something external going on. And 9 out of 10 times it's something you're doing. Okay? It could be your approach. It could be your intent. It could be the way you're, planning your rituals and your magic. But as I talked about that in previous videos, maybe it's your mindset. Okay? Maybe you are still stuck in some systems of indoctrination and you're just not addressing it the way you should. Okay? I can tell you this from firsthand experience. And again, when I'm sharing things like that, that's all I can do. I remember going years back, as I was going through different spiritual paths, and like everybody else, I came years back in those lesser spiritual systems. I did the whole Islamic thing. I did the whole 5% nation thing, the Answer Rule Law thing, etc., the Egyptian Kemetic thing, all of those paths in the beginning that get you here. But when, a few years after that, when I transitioned into what I started to learn was real occult left-hand path practices, I started to realize, by not letting go of a lot of those previous systems, because at first I would say I wasn't really dealing with it at all on the level that I used to, but there were still fragments of it there. I caught myself going back and looking at stuff, or sometimes even in the early stages, I might have still been connected to some of the people in these groups, and maybe occasionally went to a gathering thinking, oh no big deal, I'm not in it like that, right? And this is what sometimes you do. You convince yourself and you think it's okay, not realizing the long-term blockage that shit could create. It wasn't until I finally came to the realization, and this came through spiritual divination from a reading from an elder, and the words that the elder gave me, and this was it just resonated so strong, was that I wasn't fully letting go of things that I needed to let go of completely. I was not completely terminating relationships with people that was still toxic to my growth. And this is a reality. And I'm going to keep it 100% real with you. You will have to completely destroy and terminate things, that's person, places, or things, completely in some areas of your life to really get the growth. So I realized at that time I was still holding on to some old ways. Now I had convinced myself that I was past it. I was making that statement with my mouth and to a degree in my mind, but I didn't realize these little things that I was still holding on to. I didn't realize how, really, at that moment, I realize now, but at that moment, I didn't realize how destructive and toxic and chaotic that shit was holding me back, because I did not fully let go. So in that, I'll never forget that session. In that session, I was told that, there's a path laid out for me. It came up that I had made a conscious decision. This was the path that was laid out for me, but I would not be able to receive the blessings and the growth and the evolution of it if I didn't completely let go of everything connected to those previous ways. Yes, and sometimes that includes people too. Because you can't have people in your life that are completely adverse to what your life is about. So the other problem is people still keep in their environment people that are not conducive to their spiritual growth. And part of coming on this path, the cutting away, the shedding away process, is also eliminating certain. I mean, literally, from that period back then, I mentioned, I think, somewhere down the line before, I may talk to maybe only 2-3 people that I knew in them movements and during that period back then. That's because they're not in it no more. They've moved on to bigger and better things and grown. Right? Until I completely cut all those old ways off, that's included everything connected to it, person, places, and things. Soon as I did that, and I kid you not, in a very short period of time, shit drastically changed for me for the better. Yeah, I remember in the beginning, a lot of people were pissed off at me. A lot of people were mad, weren't happy with some of the spiritual choices I made. I was looked at as a traitor. When you're part of movements for many years, those that, are still stuck in their mindset, yeah, they're going to have issues with you. Even it could be within your family. If they see your new choice of spirituality, this all comes with the territory. So yes, I mean, a lot of people were angry. I held my ground. I just had to explain to them I'm going a different route. I just certain changes I need to make in my life in order for me to get to where I got to go. I just got tired of the bullshit. That was one of the things that a lot of those fucking kumbaya movements, let's come together, I love you, you love me, we need to do for self. It's all talk, and I got tired of that shit. It's all talk. I started to notice all the people in them groups, majority of them, I'm not saying every last one of them, but a good percentage of them were pissed, broke, and failures. And I started to look around, and then I started to look at myself, and I said, if I don't get out of this shit, I'm going to become what they are, and that's what I don't want to become. Poor, miserable, a failure, and not succeed at anything I do. It was a lot of talk. And I started to realize a lot of people in those movements are there because it's either a social club, it's something to do, it's a security blanket, and then some people are just there because they got nothing better to do, and all they like to do is cause fucking confusion. Right? I started to see the same old cycle. All this big talk, oh, we are supreme royal with gods, and and always back in the day itis shit, always connecting to how great we used to be. But I'm like, how's this shit transitioning into the now? Like, I don't see it. And I remember after getting that reading, shortly a few days after that, waking up, kid you not. And I remember sitting at the edge of my bed for a few minutes before I started my day that day, and I contemplated, and everything just hit me in that moment like a ton of bricks. I said, I ain't doing this shit no more with this. And I literally, as they use the term, I just stopped cold turkey. Now, I'm not saying that works for everybody, but, well, technically at that moment I stopped cold turkey, but I realized prior, when I was saying I was disconnected from all that, I wasn't. But at that moment, I literally went cold turkey. I just stopped dealing with any of that old shit. At that moment, it was just, call it an aha moment, call it a serious moment of awakening, whatever you want to call it. But I knew at that point in my life, drastic change was needed. So I said, if I'm going to do this, if I'm going to be on this path, I'm going to commit myself. And everything, literally, from that moment, sitting on the edge of my bed that morning, from that point on, there was a whole new energy that just, I was able to tap. Things changed. Things felt different immediately. I felt like, almost like how somebody would say, if you were trapped in prison or confined, or you were stuck in something. I just felt this immediate release. I just felt like I was held down for so long, and now like the spirit said, okay, glad you finally figured it out. Glad you're here. Let's get to work. Okay, now that that's over, that type shit. Like, now that that's finished, let's get to work. And yes, call it a serious moment of awakening, a DNA explosion, whatever you want to refer to it as. Okay? But at that moment, that's when that would be the defining moment, I would say, I officially made the full intent to be on this path. So you have to ask yourself, are you really on this path, or are you bullshitting yourself? And be real. Are you convincing yourself you're on this path? Because maybe you're doing some occult left-hand path things, and then you kind of backtrack, and slip, and you still, and maybe in your mind, you might think not a serious, harmless way. You're still holding on to a lot of the old shit. Right? This is the things you need to ask yourself. And when you analyze, be honest. And look, it's okay if you fuck up, you make mistakes. It's just not okay to be making the same mistake over and over. Okay? And sometimes people are making the same mistake over and over. They could be conscious of it, and sometimes they're not. It's a bit dangerous when you're not. It's a bit dangerous when you think in your mind you're doing the right thing and you're okay. Right? A lot of us like to think that we're okay all the time. That's just not the case. So analyze yourself. Ask yourself, since I came on this path, am I utilizing things that serve me no purpose anymore? So there's ways to simply check yourself. Very easy. Am I still overly concerned and worried about what other people think? Because that thing that people call peer pressure, right, that we've always learned about, right? Do I succumb to pressure from my peers? Do I feel like I backtrack? Right? You've got another challenge on this path is moving forward, establishing parameters and relationships with people. Because when you're on this path, you have to be clear-cut in your relationships and how you deal with people. There's different levels to it. Some people are going to be in this spectrum. Some people are just going to be acquaintances. There's a certain way you need to conduct yourself, when it's dealing with business, career, or work, right? These things are critical and important, because sometimes the caving into peer pressure we could backtrack, right? So there's several multitude of things you could do to really see if that's the case. And is my ritual work, this is very critical and important, is it geared, one, towards my needs and self-mastery, but is it in line with the left-hand path in the occult? Or am I still working with Ganesh and, I'm not cracking on that stuff, but what I'm trying to tell you is those lesser systems don't work well with this path. Okay, now there's ways we connect, and I'll get into that another time, what we would call those lighter energies, if that's the right word. There's a way we do it on the left-hand path of the occult, but at the root of it is always the darkness. That's the difference in other systems. That's not at the root of it. That's taught from day one to avoid it. Don't deal with that stuff. Wipe it out of your mind. Pray it away. Meditate it away. No, that doesn't work. That's not how this works. All right? So I might do a part 2 to this because I'm not sure if I'm done. Because I'm at my destination. I'm at 9 rounds. I'm going to wrap this video up. All right? We might continue this talk. I'm not sure if I'm done. I don't feel like I'm done. So I think there's going to be a part 2 to this. If you need to reach out to me for a spiritual reading, a consultation, shoot me an email, khnum19@gmail.com. If you want to sign up for the classes that I offer, go to the official Primordial Chaos Patreon page, patreon.com/Baniti, BANITI, and join Tier 3. That gives you access to the monthly classes and the monthly ritual we do together. If you need information on the Journey of the Black Adept Conference, shoot me an email at khnum19@gmail.com. My contact email is in the description box of the video. Also, the Primordial Chaos Podcast, the direct link to the podcast is in the description box of the video, and the Patreon link to sign up for the classes is also in the direct in the description box of the video. All right? I'll see you on the next round. Fernal blessings. We'll talk soon.